Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome. Yeah, welcome to the Nameless Retro Wrestling Show, where 10 seconds ago we weren't so sure we were actually going to be on the air at this point, but here we are, live for at least the moment. I'm your host, Ben Jordan, along with Michael V, and as you see in the middle of the screen, back joining us this week, our buddy Brian Skibo. Welcome back, sir. And we are watching some Lucha, AAA's When Worlds Collide pay-per-view. And it was only fitting that, Brian, that you join us because you were on with us the last time we talked about Lucha and dipping our toes into some Lucha. And both you and I were kind of unfamiliar with Lucha. And Mike, when we were looking for something to watch this week, we were talking about looking for something else in 1994 because we had watched a lot of WCW in 1994, which is fantastic shit, which we've well established on this show at this point. That 1994 WCW, as far as in-ring quality, is really fucking good.
First half.
Yeah, the first half. Yes, exactly.
Then it's Hulkamania. Then it's Hulkamania 10 years later and shit. So it's all
yes, exactly. But before Hogan gets there, it's fucking fantastic. And so my original thought was to watch WWF and what they were doing at the same time, just to kind of contrast. But Mike, thinking the way he does, was like, no, you guys wanted to dip your toes into some Lucha. Let's watch When Worlds Collide because that's 1994 as well. And it opens up a really incredible discussion, which is what I want to start with, guys, which is 1994, the business, for all intents and purposes, by the historical purposes, the narrative is the business is down in 1994. But Mike, I think we're going to get into it in the business notes, but AAA might be the hottest promotion in the world in 1994. Is that hyperbole? Is that overblowing it, you think, Mike?
All Japan and New Japan are killing it too. I mean, they're both doing really good business. Even WCW, like WWF's business is down. So because there's so much of the market share, the business is down as a whole. But WCW's business with Hogan there, I mean, their pay-per-views at least start, going up. House show attendance is the shits though, pretty much across the board.
Yeah, Brian, you have a thought there?
As far as like, I don't know, like AAA is probably they're killing it at this time. Like,
yeah,
if you do look at El Gringo's Locos too, there's a lot of similarities to what that is and what the NWO would be. I know like the NWO was a concept in Japan, but Los Gringos Logos had a lot of that going for them too. So that's very interesting. They're drawing huge houses, which we probably got some numbers on.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that, and it is probably the one chance that we will have on this show to talk about Art Barr, and we will get a chance to dive in and talk about him there in depth because there's some layers to the Art Barr story, and we'll get into all of that when we talk about that match.
Listen, we are here to block slam dunks. That's what we're here to do. Anything that anybody thinks is a slam dunk, we try to put a hand up and play a little defense and give a little perspective. So yeah, like there's just to tease the Art Barr subject because this is not this show is more than just reviews. It's more than just talking about When Worlds Collide. So, but Art Barr as a future superstar is nowhere near the slam dunk that people make it out to be with his death, which we will get into. Like, that is not the only thing that stopped him by any stretch from being a superstar. And I don't think that it would have happened had he stayed alive, which we'll get into.
Absolutely. And there's a very compelling case for that. And I don't think a lot of people know the Art Barr story, and we will definitely get into that.
And not the specific details. Like some people know what happened without the details, but the details are really what push it over the top for me, which we'll get into.
For sure. And also we'll get a chance to talk a little Chris Benoit and of course that comes with the baggage that comes with that as well.
I don't want to talk about the baggage. Let's just not.
Let's not, right? I think that's better.
Yeah.
There's other stuff with Chris Benoit too that me and Ben were pre-meeting about that. Why he's even on this show, which is kind of an interesting topic. So
Correct. Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into the lead up to this, which that's why I don't want to waste a whole lot of time with some of the preamble. Let's get right to the business notes because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the business of this pay-per-view. First of all, the show did about 13,000 in attendance. This is in Los Angeles at the big sports arena there in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And for a gate of 202,000 people, $202,000, excuse me. For perspective, Michael V, my memory is not as good as yours. We just watched WCW Spring Stampede 1994. What was the attendance?
Oh, fractions. They didn't even do anywhere near half the gate. They might have did a quarter of the gate.
Yeah, for perspective, again, AAA was killing it at the box office at this point.
Yeah.
And that goes to the next thing, which is full AAA attendances and gates from that time. And this is for Los Angeles specific, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so specifically for Los Angeles, which again is another country from where their home base is, right? Like this would be like I don't know, AEW consistently drawing huge numbers in Mexico.
It's hard
City or something.
It's
right?
hard. It's hard to compare to today because television and entertainment are so different. But I mean, it's a heavy Hispanic market, which is why they targeted it. So,
Sure.
I mean, their TV was doing huge ratings at that time. So it wasn't like, they're just drawing off word of mouth. I mean, their television was huge in that market.
Yeah. Check out some of these numbers. They're fucking mind-boggling. August 1993, they draw 17.5 with a gate of 243,000. Headline Konnan versus Jake Roberts versus Cian Caris, which is just a crazy rematch. That's like one of the craziest three-ways you've ever heard in your life.
That's right. Jake was in AAA at this time.
Oh, Jake started it. Yeah, he started it. Yeah, he got it started. I mean, he definitely helped get it started.
He gave them the star power they needed, right? Or some of the star power.
Well, I mean, I think with him is there's some star power there but he's not. I mean, keep in mind, like Jake's not drawn a lot of money. I mean, he was like right person, like in any other context, like it's not like for WWF or WCW he was, but in that context, like with that promotion, the way they're on fire at that time, the way they did things, and with him to be like that, kind of over the top heel. I mean, he was like, he's perfect. I mean, he's just a perfect foil for a hot promotion at that time.
Yeah,
especially being a white man in that, in lucha.
Yeah, and of all people, sure. Jake Roberts is capable of doing that, right? Brian,
I was gonna say just the novelty of Jake too for that Hispanic crowds too. Like they know who Jake Roberts is. They've most likely seen WWF at some point, so have him brought into their world and him doing it his way in their world, like it was pretty good move, bold move, but it worked for him.
Absolutely. November 1993, it dips us slightly to 12.5 with a gate of 197 for Jake Roberts in Los Gringos Locos versus Konnan, Perro Aguayo, and Blue Panther. Holy
Oh shit. Man, I want
wow.
That show shit.
Yeah, for a 6-man, I mean, like it's gonna drop. It's a 6-man, right? So I mean, it's a trios match. Like it's not
which are par for the course. Yeah,
right. But it's not like the same level of headliner as the first. But as like a match, I want to see. Holy shit.
Hell yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of those trios matches too, they do like, especially this particular match, like it's probably definitely they enhance the angle. Like there's probably some shenanigans that went down, like the built up to a 6-man that's going to piece off into like the tag match or the 1-on-1 or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, Jake and Los Gringos Locos had they did a ton of angles and had a ton of heat.
Oh yeah, it just makes so much sense, shit.
And I can't wait to go back and watch more of that stuff. I know there is a bunch of it out there, and I'm trying to get get as much in as I can. I've actually started watching CMLL from 1990, and I'm kind of starting there.
Yeah, that's an interesting science experiment that we're gonna dive into in this show too. That'll definitely be a part of it.
For sure. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Finding out about guys like Super Astro, and seeing heavy metal very early in his career, very young, up and comer heavy metal, where he's not nearly the heavy metal he is when Worlds Collide happens in 1994.
Star.
He is a huge star. And it was Angel Azteca. That guy's really fucking good too. But yeah, we'll definitely be
my man El Dandy. My man El Dandy's a fucking
yes. Got to give credit where it's due. 1990 El Dandy. You watch him and you go, he is every bit the peer of Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and those guys.
Probably smoother, man. Like in all seriousness, like yeah, I mean, like I'm like those guys are all great at what they do, but I mean, like I don't know if it's because the time I'd seen that era, like I'd already seen the other incarnations of El Dandy and how surprising it was. But I mean, he's so fucking smooth. Like there's no part of his body that's gonna touch the guy he's working with, his body, to like cause any kind of delay in anything that he does. Like it's just smooth into the move. Yeah, it's like it's really good to watch. But when you get to the stuff with him and Satanico from that era, I can't
wait. I'm looking forward to it. It's a little slow moving. It's slow moving.
It's 1990 though.
It's 1990. The matches are all 6-man tags, 3 falls, and they're patterned the same, but they do try to change it up in that they give you some minis trios, they give you some women's trios, they try to mix it up a bit, but it is very patterned, so I can't sit and watch it for long periods of time.
It's the oldest. Well, a couple things. One, like watch a WWF and WCW show in that era, and then watch that, and it's not as slow. But it is somewhat slow. I mean, it's the oldest wrestling promotion in the world, bar none. Yeah. So, and that what you're watching is what leads to this shit, though. Too. This is what.
Correct. I appreciate it for what it is. Don't get me wrong.
No. But specifically, like this is why AAA existed. Like this is how it became. Is out of that slow CMLL style, Antonio Pena, they wanted to get away from that shit. And, Konnan was very ECW, esque and very into that shit and kind of tried to bring that style over there too. So, I mean, that's what kind of, led to this is that, there were people there that felt like it was too slow and outdated and they wanted to modernize it. So yeah, there is some of that, but I mean, it's really good cloud.
Brian, how much lucha have you had a chance to watch? Have you dipped your? I mean, give us an idea. Are you like me?
I mean, I literally had some working Spanish because I used to watch a lot of lucha and watch it in Spanish and be able to kind of pick up on how it works. And like I was trained by Ayash Abercrombie. We came up in that era with the Quackenbush and Chikara, so like we're always doing lucha stuff and learning like. Seen different lucha matches and stuff, so I've seen quite a bit of it.
Good. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. It's a different show, and like one of the things like was huge with the Pena, which we'll get to. When he did leave CML, like one of the first things he did is he took the whole minis division with him, which was like a huge deal, and then it was one of the things that helped separate AAA from that CML MLL style, if you will.
Yeah. That's also because he was allegedly having sex with several of them. So
probably.
Hello.
No, that's not a fucking punchline. That's a fact.
I know.
That's a factual statement. That shit was
you wouldn't throw something out there like that.
That's why I said allegedly too, to protect myself from any liability.
Yeah, you're not that stupid. Yeah.
No, but those stories have been circulated for a long time, and I don't want to make it. There's been some conflicting stories about how seedy it is because, he apparently just had some really long-standing, relationships, like love with these people, not just, kind of
it wasn't predatory.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, like bending them over the desk or whatever, crazy shit. But I don't even know who with the height differential. I'm not sure who would.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Either. Yeah.
And just to be clear, bending over the desk is not I actually thought man woman, like using that term before man, because
yeah.
All right, I may have been there a time or two myself.
All right, back to the numbers here real quick. March 1994, they draw 13,800, but for a gate of 238,000, which is almost the gate for when they drew 17.5 in 1993, which means that obviously they papered it less. And the main
I think they probably raised the ticket prices.
That too, because you have Konnan versus Jake Roberts in a cage match as your main
event.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, I bet that drew.
You know that if that's your third show, that is gonna be your biggest money show. Like you're expecting that if you're throwing that out there in a cage.
Yep. They come back in August, draw 8,000 with a gate of 145,000, but it's just it's Masquerita Sagrada versus Espectrocito in a mask versus mask match, and Konnan and Jake Roberts versus Perro Aguayo and Vampiro.
Let me tell you some shit though. Do not read these numbers and think that 8,000 is nothing, because I bet you WWF they might have drew 8,000 at a house show like maybe once or twice the whole year in '94. So I mean, it's still a really impressive number.
Yeah.
Maybe at MSG, maybe at the Garden.
Exactly. Yeah, and even at the Garden, I mean, they definitely did less than 8,000 at times. I can't specifically remember if it's '94 the whole year, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe once or twice, but they're not drawing that shit. So I mean, they're still hot.
Yeah. July 1995. So it's almost a year they go before they come back to
not a year because the
AAA. You're right.
Yeah.
But after AAA though, it's still 6 to 8. What's that? 6 months? 8 months before they come back in July 1995, drawing 8,500 for Cian Caras versus Konnan versus Perro Aguayo in a 3-way hair match. And then December 1995, they draw 6,000 for Konnan and Aguayo versus Caras and Cibernetico. WCW did not have a 6-figure gate between July 1989 and July 1994. That's crazy. Meanwhile, these guys were hauling in $200,000 gates
every time. Yeah, and did it 100,000 every time except for the last one, which the gate's probably not available because they did not do that well. And they stopped going back. But I mean, shit. Vince would have killed for business like that in LA at that time. Like literally, I believe he if someone told him if you end this person's life, no one will ever find out about it, but you could draw these numbers in LA at that time, I firmly believe that he would allegedly do that. Yes.
Some other business notes about this show is that obviously it is produced by WCW and Turner Broadcasting, and that
commentary by Mike Tenay and Michael Cole. It was fucking fantastic. Michael Cole is the Chris Cruz of his era. That's exactly who he is. I've never placed it before. I've listened to a lot of Chris Cruz. That's exactly who he is.
That's a great call.
He's a polite, corny man that's like technically a very sound broadcaster. He is Michael Cole dead on.
I have it written down here that Chris Cruz and Mike Tenay are like a bizarro JR and Vince McMahon at this time, but Michael Cole works so much better in that scenario, actually, because it is just like that.
Yeah.
When you talk about announcers, Brian and I were talking about this before you came on with us, before we came on the air, and this surprised me as I was doing a little bit of prep right before we came on the air. This is Mike Tenay's broadcast debut as a wrestling announcer, as a wrestling commentator.
He was doing a wrestling radio show in Vegas for a couple of years by this point. That's his only real broadcasting experience. That's because Ron Scholar, that's the IWC part of this show. Like Ron Scholar and Tenay, he brought Tenay in to because he knew that Tenay was knowledgeable about lucha and stuff like that. So yeah, he was kind of hooked up through them. Yeah,
and it's unbelievable.
He was good.
Yes, he's fantastic. Yeah. He's he
play-by-play does not work. That's the play-by-play with him, and it's one of the things that I think Bischoff said, and I agree. Like as a play-by-play guy, no, but as data machine color commentator, works fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. And credit to Mike Tenay for taking this gig and turning it into a long career in professional wrestling as a commentator. I mean, if he wasn't as good, because from what I was reading, he impressed Turner executives and Eric Bischoff with how well he did on this show. And so when they started booking more luchadors on the Nitro, they brought him in to do commentary on Nitro because he was so good on this pay-per-view. And because he was so good on Nitro in those spots, he ends up getting the full-time gig in Nitro. And when Nitro goes off the air, he gets the gig in TNA, and he's with TNA for fucking ever. I mean, the guy kudos to taking an opportunity and making the absolute most of it, man. That's a
over $1 million earned in professional wrestling, I'm sure. Probably with an S. Yeah.
Mike Tenay thoughts, Brian? You got any Mike Tenay thoughts for us?
Yeah, it's amazing that's his first time commentating. I get that he's a radio host, but they are still kind of two different animals.
Different. Yeah, absolutely.
And
he sounded like you've been doing it forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's really good at explaining the traditions of Lucha Libre and this, and why I kind of say a bizarre JR. He did bring a credibility to it. It's his first fucking time. So we look back and we see Mike Tenay. We know Mike Tenay, but it's wait, this is his first gig. This is the next 20 years of my life watching him on commentary. It's weird. It's so bizarre.
It is very, very bizarre.
First of all, we have to bless this man, Mike Tenay, who is now setting lines in Vegas, doing the real heavy lifting in life, the important shit. God bless him. Yeah. But besides that, for him too, have you ever seen the heel Mike Tenay in WCW?
I don't remember it. No.
Oh my God. Besides Vince Russo jumping on fucking Ric Flair's bed, it's the best thing Vince Russo ever produced in WCW. It's fucking hilarious. Hold on. Google Vince Russo and Stacy Keibler. Oh my goodness.
Vince Russo turned Mike Tenay.
No, Mike Tenay. I'm sorry, Mike Tenay, Stacy Keibler. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was right. Yeah.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Mike.
No, I'm thinking of the creative mind that came up with it, and this was fucking hilarious. Oh my goodness.
I don't. Mike Tenay.
Stacy Keibler.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's online. It's been out there for a lot of. It's been talked about in circles. It's fucking way over the top.
I think I do remember this.
Yeah, it's on Thunder.
Yeah.
Stacy, I don't.
Stacy Keibler. Yeah, maybe Miss Hancock. I thought he was calling her Stacy. I thought that Russo was doing shoot names by that point. Maybe Mike to name Miss Hancock. Try that.
Yeah, well, Miss Hancock sounds like a fucking Vince Russo character name, don't it?
It does, but that was well, it was Russo though. That was Russo. Remember, Russo came up with it. Then he got fired for 2 months, and then he came back. So, but then I think he was doing shoot names because I thought I remember Mike Tenay calling her Stacy, but who knows?
He might have at one point something,
Now you got me.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Hold on, I'm gonna look for it.
Yeah, if they took it off. But while you're looking for that, one last kind of business note I want to talk about. And this is according to the Wikipedia page for the show. So if you hear anything that's incorrect that is incorrect, correct me if it's anything of this is wrong. That said, says prior to the show, the producers from WCW Turner Broadcast System made several changes to the format, including reducing the overall time by 40 minutes. This forced AAA to change the first 3 matches from the traditional best of 3 falls to just a single fall.
Yeah, that's right.
Producers also cut back the elaborate entrances AAA usually had for their major shows.
Yep.
And did not allow AAA to have a dark match before the broadcast event to rev the crowd up. The producers also pushed to change the semi-main event to a singles match between El Hijo del Santo and Eddie Guerrero, but in the end, the match went on as originally planned and advertised. Couple things here. Why is WCW Turner Broadcasting doing this and basically cutting the nuts off of AAA and hurting the product? I mean, they ultimately are hurting their presentation by making them make these changes. No,
I kind of think I know where you're coming from with that, but I kind of think no, because it kind of does make this 5-match show kind of paced a little better. So you had this minis match that no one fall over, then the second trios, and by the time we got to Eddie and Art Barr against El Hijo del Santo and Octagon. It was a traditional 2 out of 3 falls match with the wagers on the line too. Then you ended with the steel cage. So I think it actually kind of helped it pacing wise. But I mean, at the same time, it's traditional lucha is 3 falls. So
yeah, that's what we talked about this. This is where I said Ray inadvertently fucked up lucha, but this is the same thing where it's like they put a spin on it and like. No one's seen lucha because you've seen Nitro. That's not what lucha is. Like, it's not even close. Like, what people think that lucha is, it's not. And this kind of started that thing. And maybe it would have, maybe it helped out. Maybe it didn't. It's tough to say. But all I know is that lucha itself they never really gave it that chance. Even though it's strong, like lucha in its presentation is like selling out arenas that you could do like 2,000 fucking people in. Like, I think they fucked up to where they tried to market it too much to the U.S. audience without, hitting the Latino audience really enough, which was, already a huge segment of the population by that time. And just roll the dice, like present it. You have American announcers to explain this shit. Like, just present it so that it's in that format still and just give it a chance because guess what? It did get over with some people here. Like, that is what, like, all those people that, like, and you guys know this, right? Like, anybody does, I think, as a wrestling fan. You go to local indie show A, and it's a bunch of it. You've never went. You're only going because fucking Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in the main event. You're not going back to the third show that Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in the main event. Like, you've fucking seen it, and you're done. So they're not going just for Jake Roberts at this time, like the white American fans that they got to come and get into this shit too. Like they got into lucha, like try to get people to get into that. It was never gonna work as like a mainstream thing anyway. So I don't understand why you're making it like more mainstream. I just don't understand that part.
Yeah, you sent me that link and. So David Bixenspan.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. Yeah. Can you play the
video? I'm unable to view the tweet because the account owner limits who can view their tweets.
Oh,
like a
shit.
real
Hold on.
You can share your screen, can't you? Can you bring it up and share it from your screen?
Well,
I don't know how that works as a guest. I don't know if you have that access.
I don't know if I do either.
Live.
Now you got me concerned. Oh no, I definitely have the video. Wait, hold on, because there's one more. I'll send it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is high comedy.
Here. We're calling it in the ring, and it's not going well.
Listen, I'll tell you this right now. Oh, here's one from Conrad. Conrad tweeted it too, which is I'm very not surprised that he would find this amusing. This seems right up his alley. All right, I am pasting. All right. Yeah, I promise you will not. No one will be disappointed with what they wait for here.
The wait for, yeah.
This shit just came out of nowhere, man.
Dude, they're doing it it's giving me the same fucking thing. You're unable to view this tweet because this account owner limits who can view their tweets.
Can I share my screen?
I don't know. Does it allow you to? I don't know. I don't know what it looks like from a guest's perspective. I've only seen it from like the
Maybe you're pissing people off.
I don't know. Whatever. Maybe Bixen span. Maybe
does Ryan Satin have? Oh, Ryan Satin is not.
No, because if they are retweeting Bixen span,
they're not. Yeah, they're not. Okay. This one isn't. Yeah, this one isn't.
Gotcha.
The other one did. So
Conrad definitely did.
Yeah, Conrad did. All right. Mike Tenay just being an asshole here. It's fantastic.
I didn't.
And he does.
I does one with heal Mike Tenay.
He does one with. At the first one's with Medeja. This is the second one that he did, and it's fucking like the one with Medeja. Like just like comes out of nowhere, but this one he's like full into it already. So
it's only a 4-second clip, so there's not much.
4 seconds.
Yeah,
that's all they put up.
Yeah, it's just a 4-second
just move on. Yeah. It's not meant to be. That fucking sucks.
It wasn't meant to be. Well, come on. All right.
Let's
get into the action here. Let's get into the action. The pay-per-view opens with a minis tag team match. Mascarita Sagrada and Octagoncito taking on Espectracito and Jarito Estrada. And man, I'm not normally a big fan of minis matches. They don't do it for me. But Mascarita Sagrada and particularly Octagoncito are fucking awesome. They're a spectacle to watch. And obviously Espectracito and is a great base for those two guys. And this was maybe the best minis match I've ever seen. It was that
Mascarita Sagrada doesn't need a base. He's fucking good with anyone.
Dude, he's so watching him and Octagoncito too was impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Like I had that written down too. Like Octagoncito, like he stole the match. I really thought honestly Sagrada was a little off for what he usually does perform. Like he just there was like one particular dive he did. It wasn't quite the way he usually would do it. Just seemed a little off. But yeah, Octagoncito and both those seals are great bases for these guys. And yeah, wow, it was a fun opener match. That one of the things we said before is what helped make AAA and IWC different. So
yeah, and another note, as someone who's not big into lucha, I really dig the idea of miniature versions of the big wrestlers. I think that's fucking genius. I really do. I think that's incredibly genius marketing to market them as miniature versions of the big.
For sure.
That's where WWF fucked up. WWF fucked up when they had those AAA guys there doing that stuff, like Mini Vader, Mini Mankind. That was fun stuff.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like in America, you associate minis with pro wrestling. You think ha-has, ass biting spots, playing catch with them with the referee or whatever, blah blah blah. But like these tribute characters, that's like a huge honor for you're that over that they had to make another character view to show a different style and whatnot. It wasn't like like a CP Monk or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I think they could have, if they would have tried to get those guys in matches though, like Mini Mankind, like if he's in a match with Mick Foley and doing fucking crazy wild shit, like I think it could have got over. I mean, they just
100% agree.
Yeah,
there was a market there. There was an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Mick Foley in his book said he was really honored by it, but then when he did use it on TV, they didn't know how to book the minis like that. They just wanted it's U.S. comedy.
Yeah, because Sagrada's there. I mean, he was there in that era, and he's just
for sure,
he's like goofy little dude. Yeah, like not. But they had the minis there, the lookalikes. Like I said, it seemed like the crowd was intrigued by them, at least like Mini Gold Dust and all. I mean, like that shit was kind of fun.
Yeah, I think there was a market for that. They definitely dropped the ball there. I think
honestly, they would have had more luck with them than the AAA guys they had at that time that they were trying to push.
Yeah,
fair enough. You're talking the full size guys.
Yeah. Like many fucking Gold Dust would have got over more than fucking Cibernetico in fucking 1997 WWF. I mean, for sure.
Fair. That's a fair point. That is a very fair point. So there you go.
So
Say again.
El Pantero or El Pantera. I think he's another Mexican guy.
Yeah. And we watched last week that they brought in Super Porky at that in the minis. They tried it on a couple of different occasions with the minis.
I love Super Porky. Super Porky is like the Jason Voorhees of real life. Like he finally died. He finally died, but Jesus Christ, like 14 heart attacks or whatever the fuck that it is, because he's as tall laying on his back as he is standing up. He had a heart attack like every fucking 8 months for a while. Like it was ridiculous. He still fucking lived. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. All right, that leads us to our next match. It's also a 6-man tag match. This time it is Fuerza Guerrera, the captain of his team. He teams with Psychosis and Madonna's boyfriend. Madonna's boyfriend, American wrestling fans will remember him as Louis Spicoli in both WCW and obviously ECW. And here he's a completely, this is not Radford or anything close to that. It was very interesting to see him portrayed in this Madonna's boyfriend character. And they take on the team of Heavy Metal, who's the captain of his team, his tag team partner, Latin Lover, and of course, Rey Mysterio Jr., 19-year-old Rey Mysterio Jr. This is his coming out party, if you will. The background, as I understand it going into this, is that Fuerza Guerrera is kind of feuding with Rey Mysterio because Fuerza Guerrera's son is Juventud Guerrera, and Juventud and Rey are the young rivals of the two up-and-coming young stars, and Fuerza obviously is backing his son, and so he's kind of feuding with Rey. The confusing part for a lot of people, and what I was reading, is that it doesn't make sense that Madonna's boyfriend is in this match rather than Juventud Guerrera. And that sounds to me like something like a WCW decision. Like, hey, we need another white guy in there. Can we get somebody? You've got a white guy on your roster. Can you get us another white guy forced in there? I don't know if that's the case, but it feels forced, and it does make no sense that Juventud's not in this match.
I don't think it was forced though. Louis like a member of Los Gringos Locos. It's not like he's this isn't fucking Radford or whatever the fuck. Like,
right, I get you.
I think there's,
but in this match, it doesn't make sense because he's not really involved with any of these guys.
No, but he's going to get heat. Listen, what was the main event of SummerSlam '92?
The Intercontinental title.
No, that was the last match, not the main event. The main event was Warrior Savage. Right, the last match was fucking. I mean, you do things for specific markets. Like, I mean, I think AAA would, you're going to do that. Like, if, okay, we're going to a foreign land here, we're going to try to get their people on the show. I mean, that kind of does make sense, I think, to a degree. I mean, I just don't think that everything is like, WCW did all this and, like everything. I think some of it is just their decision making too.
Yeah. And the little screen locals on all this show too, they're such a huge part of it. They're a huge part of the fucking draw that AAA, why they're so high at the time. So fucking throw Louis out there, he can base, get his character over, and there you go.
Makes sense. What watching this match, what I found most interesting that stuck out with me, and I mentioned this to Mike in our private chat, is that it is very hard to find a match, a Rey Mysterio match, where he's not the biggest star in the match, right? Where he is not the biggest star on his team in this match.
No,
Heavy Metal is the biggest star in this match.
No, he's not a star. Ray's not a star at this point.
This point, right? He's up and coming, right? And so that's why it was different to watch.
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say he's up and coming. Like, I don't think Rey would have ever been a star if he stayed in Mexico. Like, coming to America and becoming what he did, Like that's, like that. I think that's what really made him a star in Mexico. His size, as much as people like, try to poo-poo American wrestling for how they look at size, I don't know if his size would have allowed him to be a main event star there. And his style of work too, because it's just different. And you see it in the main event. And again, it goes back to like the misconception of what Lucha Libre wrestling is. But his style, that style, the psychosis style, all that shit, that's underneath wrestling at this point. Like that's what it is. It's your junior heavyweights leading to your heavyweights. Like he might have made it. I mean, because he's so fucking amazing. He might have ended up being a top guy, but there's no way he would have been the same level of star that he was going to be. Like making it here is what made him big over there.
Sure. No, that's a good point.
But also at the time too, though, like Ray was making a name for himself because like Psychosis Ray at this time, they were like Hoovy and Ray. They're attached to the hip. They had the matches over in War that helped blow Ray and Psychosis up, and then getting seen on this and going to WCW and having Dean Malenko and bringing in guys like Hoovy and or ECW too, Hoovy and Psychosis. Like he was, I would say, up and coming. You probably look right though, Mike. He may not have been a big main event star in Mexico due to his size, because they do take that a little more into consideration, especially at this time in Mexico and Japan. So yeah, Ray might not have got it if it wasn't for he's making a name internationally for himself. He probably would have made a real good living. He probably would not be Rey Mysterio, the most influential luchador of all time.
No, in wrestling circles, he's definitely making a name for himself. But I mean, as far as like Ben's talking specifically about seeing a match where he wasn't the biggest star, and it's like he was never gonna be that guy. Like he would have never been heavy metal. Like I don't think, and if he's like, dude, heavy metal, it's like that's one thing that we don't really talk about too. And we'll kind of talk about it in the semi-main and the main event, but just the crowd heat. But this is like the crowd heat is there because these people are icons, like in their culture. Like this is not like, Hulk Hogan was a household name. Like, yeah, he was. And that's like one guy and, maybe Andre the Giant or whatever the fuck. But even then, it's still not like the same level. Like there's people that know who these, everyone knew who Hulk Hogan was. Not everyone loved Hulk Hogan. Some people laughed at Hulk Hogan that knew who he was, like in the culture. But in the culture, like in Mexico, it's just different. It's a revered level of star. These guys were, on soap operas and in movies. Like it was commonplace. It was not Hulk Hogan doing Mr. Nanny and fucking shit like that. Like
yeah. From what I understand, Heavy Metal and Latin Lover as a tag team were hugely popular.
Yeah,
hugely
fire.
Another note that I had read kind of while I was, because this show inspired me to like. Who's this guy? And I, Google them and I'd fall down the rabbit hole about them and learning about them and stuff. And one thing that we'll talk more about Art Barr, but you talk about Ray's style and his influence. There's a couple of different people, Konnan specifically, that I read that he said Art Barr was the influence. The style you're talking about is Art Barr's influence on guys like Ray and Psychosis. And those guys to do that more high-paced, faster style. Like Konnan specifically credited Art Barr with teaching those guys, and those guys gravitated to Art Barr and his style, and then took it and blew it up, because obviously Art Barr wasn't able to. But they really, the style that you're talking about is credited to Art Barr, which is interesting.
And don't forget to throw Eddie in there too. Obviously Eddie involved in that too, from Art Barr too, and what he would go and become.
Yep.
Yeah, because Eddie's doing that style already. I mean, like I'd be interested to sit down and see the timeline of events there, because we have a tendency to kind of, give too much credit to people after they pass. And like, I'm not saying that's the case here, but it's just, it's a possibility, because
it surely is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I'm kind of trying to think of when I, saw these guys start and when Art was regularly down there. I'm not sure if that timeline really matches.
Yeah, no, it certainly might not.
But Art, I mean, but Art, like, even if he didn't bring it in, I mean, I think that, you know, they could see the way he kind of perfected it because he's definitely the more experienced and more polished guy at this time.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
He's the one that incorporates like everything, like it's not just the style and the pace and everything, but it's the personality too. Like he's
correct. It's the charisma and it's the bringing into the crowd into that. Because there is some elements of lucha where, especially like in that early '90s stuff that we were talking about earlier, where there does seem to be moments where the wrestlers forget that there's a crowd almost. They don't really acknowledge the crowd. They're going through the moves that they do, right? And I mean, it's maybe part of the style, but I can see what you mean by that, where there's just
they don't need it to get heat. That's kind of the thing too. They don't need it. They don't need to do it to get heat, which is, if you don't need it to get heat, then I'm all for not doing it. Because if it's, you know, in that era especially, it's based on, you know, still partially being real. So if you're in a real fight, you're probably not fucking, you know, whatever the crowd. I mean, so it didn't stop them from getting like deafening heat.
True.
People are getting fucking stabbed, okay? Like, Jesus Christ. This happened fucking multiple times. Like, I know, and this is way late in the game when it was less popular, but I know that they tried to stab fucking Modest when he was down there working as La Migra with Frank Murdoch. And so, I mean, that's insane shit, man. Like, that's just
taking it way too fucking serious.
Maybe you shouldn't be working those guys up.
Yeah, maybe not. The match ends when Fuerza Guerrera makes, I believe it was Heavy Metal submit, because they made a point of saying that the captain had to be pinned or the other two members had to be pinned.
Correct. That's the way of getting out of one fall of the fucking two
out of
falls. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Captains are doing jobs all over tonight.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because that leads us to our next match, which is without question the oddest match on the entire show. It is the IWC versus AAA 6-man tag team match. Representing Team IWC is the Pegasus Kid, otherwise known as Chris Benoit, Too Cold Scorpio, and of all fucking people, Tito Santana.
I love it.
Easily the craziest trio I think I've ever seen in my life.
I love it.
As they take on the AAA team of Blue Panther, Jerry Estrada, and my boy La Parka, and
our Lord and Savior La Parka.
La Parka, yeah, Parka is my homeboy right here. And this is an interesting match for multiple reasons. Obviously, Chris Benoit, you had mentioned Chris Benoit and Too Cold Scorpio being in this match is interesting because of politics, right? Because of who they work for in Japan and who those relationships are with in Mexico. Brian, give us a little bit of history there and why it's interesting that Chris Benoit and Too Cold Scorpio are working this show.
Well, it's New Japan has had a long-standing deal with CMLL, and to this day, like CMLL holds a grudge against AAA from leaving them. It's like even what's his name, Andrade, like he can't go. They don't want him to go to New Japan where he used La Sombra and had a reputation as coming back as, you know, a more international star because he works for AAA as an independent contractor. He's not even with New Japan. So it's like they're real petty and they hold on to that. So like Benoit's doing ECW about this time-ish too, but like, and he's technically does the ICW, IWC shows in the US version of AAA, but it's like, was New Japan, because he worked with New Japan afterwards. He worked with New Japan and WCW about a year later from this. Right. So it's like, what was he did he have that much clout because he was, you know, fucking who he was, that everyone knew? Right. He was like, go make your fucking money, kid. You know?
Right, because I mean, even more than him, like I think on that same note, Scorpio being involved is even more interesting because Scorpio is more of a New Japan guy. Really? I mean, he trained at the dojo. I mean, he's a
both him and Benoit did, Scorpio's also coming off of WCW at 94, running WCW too with Marcus Bagwell against the Nasty Boys in that era.
Right. Any insight, Mike?
Scorpio's a hired gun at that point. He's taking whoever's gonna pay him the most money, he's gonna fucking work for.
Fuck yeah.
Because he got fired by WCW for failing multiple weed tests. But yeah, I mean he's working ECW and Indies. He's not working New Japan. I mean, at that point, shit, he ain't loyal to anybody. I don't give a shit who trained me. I gotta go make this money. I'm with him on that.
Yeah. But to have those three be the representatives of IWC is so obvious. It's so weird.
Throw that shit in there.
Yeah. And watching Tito Santana try to do lucha spots with Jerry Estrada and failing horribly it broke my heart, really, because I was like, oh man, I love Tito Santana, and he's just out of place here. Like, he was set up to fucking fail in this fucking match.
I don't really blame Tito. I mean, Jerry Estrada is not the guy for him to be working with, to be trying that style anyway, though.
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know.
Look, listen, Tito's worked with lucha guys before, especially working Houston Wrestling and Amarillo. He definitely worked with a lot of lucha guys. I think that's why he's in the spot.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, this is also his first pay-per-view appearance post WWF. But like, yeah, there was something. You can tell why this was, like the clunkers or whatever. How things are kind of all right with their clunkies, a little more real because everything doesn't go right all the time. But like, even like ripping on Chris Cruz and his calling, or whatever, he did have a couple funny lines in this, and Tito hits him with something that kind of looked like a clothesline. He was so awkward. And Scorpio jumps on him, and like, because they're doing the Estrada, because at this time, like, Estrada and La Parca are having, like, La Parca had won the Mexican middleweight title, and Estrada felt like he deserved it, but they're tag team partners, they're Rudo partners. But this is where La Parca's becoming the La Parca that we would kind of come to know and love, and then like the fans are starting to turn him technical at this time. So that's why little things are kind of weird when you're watching it, but it's like, oh, that's why Estrada and that whole thing's going on. But you can also tell, like, this is like the same era, and a lot of these older guys is like, if you don't go and take your shit, you're gonna have shit taken on you. Like, you can see like Benoit and Scorpio muscling the fuck out of these sandbaggers, dude. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. I love the story. Not knowing anything about Jerry Estrada, obviously knowing La Parca, but not knowing anything about early La Parca. I thought it was cool that they told a story inside the story, right? Like, the story was that these guys weren't getting along, and like Blue Panther literally standing there at points. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with these two? There was some comedy where you're just like, you almost feel bad for Blue Panther because he can't get his teammates to get their shit together. I mean, it took a match that was really odd, and the story to tell was very hard to tell with the people that were in it. It gave this match another element that allowed it to be entertaining on a different level and kept it from being a complete disaster.
Yeah.
I didn't even think the matchup was that weird. I mean, like, it's weird because, I mean, like, the people in it, but I mean, as far as why it's happening, like, yeah, you're an American promotion, like, against a Mexican promotion. Like, I would expect guys like Tito saying, listen, if you're picking like a group out of people that aren't signed in 1994, Scorpio's like the fucking cream of the crop free agent. Probably he's pretty fucking up there. I mean, if it isn't him, it's like Mick Foley at this point. Even he was just recently not under contract. So yeah, I mean, I would kind of expect that. I mean, it was fun for what it was. I didn't mind it.
No, the match was fun. Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't. Like, because of the added elements that they brought to it, it allowed it to not get to a point where it got boring or weird or
and the style change is what we talk about all the time too. That's what makes the show fun. It's not a fucking car crash like match 2. Like, it's it's a different style. It's worked differently.
Correct. Yeah, it's different presentation of a 6-man tag. Yeah.
And there's a spot where Scorpio and La Parca stare at each other. They go like face to face. That is fucking fantastic. It's so great.
The world needed more Scorpio and La Parca interaction. We didn't get enough. Yeah, so there you go.
Just them smoking weed and talking to each other for like 3 hours. You get a season's worth of reality TV off that one like conversation.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck.
I can see the Jempos booking that. That'd be something I could gather.
So that leads us to our semi-main event of the evening. 2 out of 3 falls, Mask versus Hair, Octagon and El Hijo del Santo taking on Art Bar and Eddie Guerrero of Los Gringos Locos. They are the team. They're called La Pareja del Terror. I don't know if I said that right. I probably
did. It's the Terror Team.
Yeah, there you go. The Terror Team. Man, this match was fun from beginning to end, and like, there's something about Santo that I don't know what it is, but like, he's interesting. And I don't know why
he's one of the best ever. That's why he's one of the best to ever do it anywhere in the fucking world. He's so good.
He's even at this age here with these guys, he was really, really good. You know, and you when you realize that he is like the fucking man, he's like legendary of legendary, like to carry that weight of being the son of Santo and to be as good as El Hijo del Santo ended up being, like, that's amazing, because the pressure to be that good is immense, right?
Can I give a very tragic El Hijo del Santo story for myself, please? Very tragic. Yeah, I have a personal experience that's
okay. Yeah,
very, very traumatizing to me. Let me vape up here real quick. But so there was a show in LA that a bunch of us went down to a lucha show with Vinny Massaro. I knew that we were going to Vegas after LA, and I knew the chances of me sleeping until like, this was a Saturday night show. I knew the chances of me sleeping before Monday morning were like nil. So I chose to not go into the back with Vinny and to catch a nap in the car. And Vinny comes up to me after the show and goes, "You'll never guess what happened." And I'm like, fucking wrestling locker room. How big of a deal can it be? Like,
right.
There was probably some off-kilter fucking joke and somebody laughed.
Right. Somebody said something off color. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, he goes, "Guess who walked by me without his mask on?" And I was like, "Who?" And he was like, "El Hijo del Santo." And I was like, I fucking missed that to take a nap for fucking Vegas. Like, fuck myself right now.
Out of a bitch.
That really fucking sucked. That was like heartbreaking. And Vinny, being the kind of person that he is, he rubbed that in, you know, for at least 10 consecutive minutes. But yeah, that fucking sucked, man. Like, I actually got a chance to see Santo without his fucking mask on because I was catching some nap. And Vinny, I was also physically injured that day because Vinny gave me a fucking shoot senton in the front of Denny's when I was laying down on the fucking grass. So yeah, there was that
too. Oh man. All right. So obviously some backstory here and how we got to this point with the mask versus hair for this match is that El Hijo del Santo and Eddie Guerrero had a tag team, the Atomic Team, I believe is what they were called. And that was a callback to the original Santo and Gory Guerrero, Eddie's father, being a major tag team in Mexico back in the day. And the story, as they told it, and I think this is genius storytelling, quite frankly, is that Art Barr starts getting in Eddie's ear saying, "Hey, you're going to fall into the same trap that your dad did, which was playing second fiddle to a Santo, and you're better than that." And apparently there was also some real life heat between Eddie Guerrero and El Hijo del Santo. They didn't really particularly like each other, even though they were teaming. And so they played on that, and Art Barr ended up turning Eddie Guerrero heel, and that it leads us to where we are, where Octagon joins Santo, and we're at Mask versus Hair, which I think is genius storytelling. Mike, you got anything to add on?
I got a question. I got a question for both of you.
Yeah.
So WCW did some less than racially sensitive things in this era and before. Like, so this Mexican promotion is running this fucking angle with this basically white mulleted, coked out white dude corrupting this nice Mexican lad. Isn't that kind of racist? What the fuck?
It is in a reverse racism kind of way, right?
I'm just pointing out the irony of, like, if WCW did something like that, we'd be like, man, that's fucked up. AAA does it, and we're like, man, this is genius booking. Like, it's just very ironic to me.
Yeah, no, you
you also gotta take the consideration too. Like, there's always been, like, you go in the USA, it's like Sergeant Slaughter against the Iron Sheik, Sergeant Slaughter against Mr. Fuji, you know, Sergeant Slaughter against name of Baron Von Raschke. They always kind of had that sort of, you know, us versus them.
Yeah.
Foreigners coming out, but now America's foreign to them. They can still use that. It's kind of like how wrestling does have like a universal language all over the world, no matter what it is. Like a style that's really different than any other pro wrestling style, like Lucha Libre.
But it's not just the country thing. Like, if you told the average human being, draw me white trash in 1994, like, you're drawing
it would look like Art Bar.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Draw me a white man that looks like he's on drugs. Like, some semblance of Art Bar comes out of that picture. There's no question whatsoever. Like, it's no,
crazy. you're 100%, you're 100% right on that. But it works. It works here because
it did, yeah. Oh no, it did.
You know, this becomes obviously huge business for AAA. You know, and
you know why I think it works, and it does touch on what you said. There is a genius booking to it to where it's not overt. Like, WCW is like, you're black and you're a piece of shit, you know, like that's like the, I mean, it's not the exact wordings, but that's like that's the subtlety of their angle. Yeah, that's like the subtlety of it. But they kind of like play that line, like, because some of it is, you know, it's predominantly that he's like a white American, but he's so much of just like an asshole outside of that like, some of that stuff is like pushed to the side. So
well, and don't get me wrong, like, they also point out, because you catch a glimpse of it, but Art Bar does that the whole swimming gimmick where he, you know, the whole wet back thing and the backstroke, front stroke, that's extreme.
Yeah, you know what? I take that back. I have forgotten about some of that stuff in that era.
And they point out, like, that's like part of his gimmick is like, he makes fun of it, and that's what.
They're undoubted. Yeah, that's way over the. Like, WCW never even did something like, I'll slip on your fucking Jerry curl juice.
The closest they could come to that was Colonel Parker with Harlem Heat. That's the closest they could come. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oh my god!
Ooh. All right, so we talked about it earlier that we would talk a little bit more about Art Bar, because this is probably the only chance we're going to get to talk about Art Bar, because this match takes place on November 6th, 1994. A little over 2 weeks later, November 23rd, 1994, Art Bar is dead. He dies of a kind of mysterious heart attack back home in Oregon, laying on the couch watching TV with his daughters. About things, just fucking tragic when you hear the story like that.
She died.
He died or she died?
Is it his son that died right? It's either his son or his daughter that died right after that, tragically too.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was found dead lying with his child at his home in Springfield, Oregon. Preliminary reports say he died of heart failure, but later reports said he died of unknown circumstances. It says here Bart did not have heart problems, nor aneurysm or internal bleeding, and no ring injuries. He did have a mixture of alcohol and drugs in his blood system.
Yeah.
And Eddie Guerrero claims in his book that his death is still unknown to this day. Criminal justice reporter Scott E. Williams states that Barr died in his sleep of a drug-related heart attack.
Yeah.
After his death, Guerrero adopted Barr's trademark frog splash as his finishing maneuver as a tribute to him. And according to Guerrero, when they began tagging, he first used the frog splash as the jackknife splash. Barr took a liking to the move, began using it regularly, and adopted it as his finisher. What I think is cool is Too Cold Scorpio commented that Barr looked like a frog when he did it, thus leading to Barr naming the move the frog splash, and the move has become the frog splash from then on. It's forever known as the frog splash. So I think that's interesting. But we talked about earlier how we're here to kind of reject slam dunks. We are the Dikembe Mutombo of wrestling history. We're here to wave our fingers and no. Eddie Guerrero spoke very, very, very fondly of Art Barr, obviously. Chris Jericho, in his book, wrote very fondly of Art Barr and said that he felt like Art Barr was destined to become a huge star had he not passed away in 1994 the way that he did. Rey Mysterio talks very fondly of Art Barr. And a lot of the guys that were around Art Barr at this time, they really feel like he would have become a huge star. And based on wrestling ability and charisma, if that was the only thing we were to judge it on, you can make a case. He could have been Gino Hernandez. He could have been that level of heel, that charismatic top of the card heel. He could have been that, but he had baggage, big time fucking baggage.
That's
Chris Benoit level. Yeah, Chris Benoit level baggage that you have to separate the performer. Yeah, you have to separate the performer from the performance, and that is hard when it comes to things like murder and rape.
But Benoit died, so there was he didn't have to face any music. Like, listen, everything you said about him as a performer is true. And yeah, he would have never been a top level like WCW or WWF guy because, maybe if he had stuck around until like well into the 2000s. But as far as Attitude Era, some of the things that people say, like, no, there's no way. It's more than he fucking raped somebody. First of all, he was already in WCW, and that's the reason that he got fired then. So, like, if 1990 WCW has like these are the guys that were doing like racist ass shit with the Junkyard Dog that same year and Rocky King and all that nonsense. But like, if they're like, no, this is a little too hot for us, like, yeah, everybody else is gonna be too. It's not just that he raped somebody, he raped a teenage girl on a stairwell at a wrestling show. There's no way that that's not going to draw huge public interest as far as newspapers report. Like, it was going to get out. Nobody was going to take that chance. It was already, he was arrested for it. He went, like, he served time, like he did.
Yeah,
it was
so
punished. It's a matter of public record. Nobody was going to take that chance. And I will say this too. The fact that everybody speaks about him the way that they do leads me to believe that he was not the same person in the latter years of his life that he was at that point in his life. But yeah, nobody was going to take that chance. There's just no way.
So for those of you that may be watching this and are unfamiliar with Art Barr and are unfamiliar with the story, let me give you a little bit of context real quick. On July 16th, 1989, Barr raped a 19-year-old girl at a PNW card in Pendleton, Oregon. The girl later filed charges. Barr continued to wrestle as Beetlejuice despite the charges and the attention brought to him and PNW by the Portland Oregonian.
Gimmick.
Yeah, it's a kid's gimmick. Yeah,
yes.
Keep in mind, it's a kid's gimmick.
Yes.
And the Portland Oregonian is a huge newspaper. That's like it's been around forever. So it's not like some little bumfuck newspaper. The Portland Oregonian is like the Chicago Tribune. It's a major newspaper. Yeah. They weren't going to let this go. But a year later, Barr was polygraphed as part of the police investigation, during which he admitted the girl did not consent. but he believes she would have been willing to have sex someplace else. So his argument was she didn't want to have sex in the stairwell. Not that she didn't want to have sex, she just didn't want to have sex in the stairwell.
Correct. That's what he thought that she was saying. And regardless, he admitted to rape. Like he just, yeah, she didn't want to. She didn't want to. Right there means she didn't want to when you had sex with her. So yes, like that.
Yeah, he worked a plea bargain. He was convicted of first-degree sexual abuse. He was fined $1,000, placed on 2 years probation, and sentenced to 180 hours of community service, but served no jail time. Barr always maintained that he would have beaten the case in court, but was advised to take the plea since it involved no jail time. Also, if he lost, the bad publicity would harm the local wrestling business, driving customers away.
That shit was on its ass already by that point. What's he talking about?
So, while yes, in a perfect world, had that incident right there not happened, maybe Art Barr becomes a huge star. But without that, so Brian, having heard all that, you've now heard all of the sides of that, and you know what is your takeaway? What is your opinion on Art Barr? Where do you put Art Barr in the history of professional wrestling?
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting butterfly effect you have here. If that had not happened, where would he be? Because I mean, even going to Mexico and doing kind of the reverse racist gimmick, I guess, or whatever. Like he was on the top of his game. Like his charisma, his presence, like him working those fucking cameras on this pay-per-view, even like he's like, well, this guy he's ready for prime time, but they're probably not gonna touch him. Paul Heyman might have, because this is still the tape trading era, so like it won't be the same as WCW or WF, and like probably not even Japan would have touched them either. Either All Japan, New Japan, or maybe FMW, maybe, because there's a lot of influence of that going on at the time. Sure. But yeah, like at the time this happened, I can see why people say he could break out as a star. Could he had the opportunity and done it? Yeah, maybe, but he was to his apex as a performer with the character and in-ring work and knowing how to work the crowd and draw fucking money, because Los Gringos Locos, the Terror Team, Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero, along with fucking Konnan and these guys, like we were talking before, the numbers right there, like this whole fucking feud getting built up with Octagon and Santo is like the climax to all of this, And it's interesting that they were going to go with Eddie and Santo because they started with that, obviously, which would be an interesting bookend. But like how this, like you always had to throw Art Barr. So I wonder if WCW is worried about Art Barr being on that show in general, what they're producing, but they're able to just say, "Fuck, this is a AAA thing, maybe."
Yeah, it's not theirs.
Yeah. But it does. It also would have made. You could argue that it would have made more sense for it to just been a singles match with Santo and Eddie.
Maybe, but I mean the team itself, it was like
Louis those guys as six, or something.
Right. But I mean, he's throwing Louis on like that 1-6-man tag. They even know they wanted to get the Los Gringos Locos, their top heel act, on the show any way they can. And the way that they did this best out of 3 falls with the eliminations, ending with Santo and Eddie as the final was, it's like, okay, they did end up book,
that element of it. Yeah.
Gilligan don't work pay-per-views in singles, man. And Eddie's Gilligan.
Yeah, he is.
In this role, he is. Like Art Barr is the one that fucking corrupted him, and he's the outsider. And I mean, yeah, he's doing the heavily racist stuff. Yes, Eddie can get heat with the heavily racist stuff being Mexican, but the white dude is getting the major heat, and he's the better mouthpiece. And Eddie learned from him, not vice versa.
Correct. So, yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's why you got to have Art in the match.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, Art was one of the stars. Art and Santo were the stars of the match, Frank.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, and also too, like where they ended it with Eddie and Santo. Like the whole like a little pile driver give where Eddie gave Octagon the fucking tombstone, got the pin, and like, oh shit, we forgot to mention how in Lucha Libre the pile driver any form, it's like it was a classic Tennessee angle, it was like a big fucking deal, and they saved that move for this, and they having him hit Octagon off the tombstone and then have Blue Panther come and hit him for his comeuppance to get El Sato to cover 1, 2, 3, and then now we have Eddie. It's like you couldn't it could have been any better than that. That was just great storytelling, fucking pure heat on our bar, and then they come around and finish it up with Sato and Eddie. So like it was well put together, well booked.
To your point about the pile driver, absolutely. They mentioned early in the pay-per-view, Tenay mentions that the pile driver has been outlawed because there have been numerous injuries, career-ending injuries in Mexico due to the pile driver. So yes, he hit Art. I think it was Art that hit the tombstone on Octagon.
Yeah.
And Octagon sells it like fucking death, right? And they have to cart him out on a stretcher, and they make a whole huge deal of Octagon getting carted out. But the other little piece of it that I thought was really, really cool was our bar takes the pile driver, right? Mm-hmm. To sell that point in the main event, Los Gringos Locos comes out to help Konnan, but Art Barr isn't out there with him because I have to imagine because he's selling the effects of the pile driver that he took. Maybe I'm reading
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like they did the whole head shaving thing too, so like he wasn't
involved in that when they showed it on the screen and they were going back to it. They would show Eddie getting his head shaved, but they never showed Art. And maybe it was just me reading more into it, but I thought that was a cool little thing. If it's done by accident, great. But if not, I thought that was a cool little thing that just that little more to sell that really is a devastating move.
It's possible because they're very intentional about how people sell the pile driver.
Yeah.
And that's why it can always get a pop. Because they make it a big deal, Mm-hmm. They accomplished with the pile driver with what like Bill Watts tried to do with the top rope rule in WCW, but just it didn't work.
Yeah,
they ban it. They ban a spectacular move so that people can do it and make it mean something. Like that was kind of Bill Watts' mentality, and it just instead it just ended up.
Oh, Memphis too. I mean.
Yeah, Memphis and the pile driver. Yeah, same thing.
Lawler's whole thing for years with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This tag match, of course, has been rated 5 stars by Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer back in the day. And this is back when I feel like 5-star ratings from Dave Meltzer actually meant a little bit more than they do now. I think he hands them out a little bit more like candy these days.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, if it was Dave Meltzer today, this would be a 7-star match in AEW. So
7 and a quarter.
7 and a quarter, yeah.
I don't want to get too far sidetracked off that. I don't think Dave Meltzer gives out too many star. This is what the star ratings are subjective. This is the style of wrestling that he wants. Like these matches used to happen very rarely on shows, and if you look consistently like at those shows. This is the shit. Like, it's all subjective. So I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but there's fucking lucha matches like that he gave like 4 stars to, like on a Nitro or something, where they hit like 3 out of fucking 7 high spots. But because they hit the 3, oh my god, those fucking 3 moves. But the other 4 look like shit. Like that's what he likes. He likes that style of wrestling.
True that.
Like Pro Wrestling Gorilla.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of exactly
the shit's catered to him and people that like and that's just what they like. So I mean, I don't understand why people get so fucking, oh my god, how could you do this or whatever. And it's like he's liked this style consistently for years. Like that's what he's always rated highly.
But in fairness, like this match deserved 5 stars. It was that good.
Absolutely.
It was
absolutely.
This match is fucking fantastic.
Now the question for both of you is that Observer Match of the Year is the ladder match at 10. And this
Razor and Sean. Okay.
Yeah, this came in 3rd.
Which
match is better?
What was second? Masawa and somebody?
Kawada?
It's got to be one of those matches, right?
I believe it's Kawada.
So is this match better than the
which is better?
Which is better.
Yeah, which is better.
Ooh, that's tough.
I'm going to have to go ladder match only because of its influence later on, and Sean and Razor did have a good story going in with like the whole undisputed Intercontinental Championship thing. So that was very innovative just in that concept too, along with the first like major stage the ladder match has been on, and we can see what ladders have become in the future. But I mean, if you were talking about just a straight blowout just blowing the whole fucking feud off match, like, yeah, I don't think it touched a lot.
Yeah, this is one of the
It's
greatest.
like a year-long build too. Like Razor and Sean were like maybe 6 to 8 months or something.
Man, I don't want recency bias to come in, right? Because I just saw this match. It's the first time I've seen this match. So I have like the juices are really flowing about my love for this match. But this tag match is really fucking good, man. And it makes me now I want to go and seek out more Santo. I got to see more of this guy. Because from what I saw here, like, this dude's so smooth and so good. Like, I got to see more of this Santo guy. So, like, man, I think the recency bias in me says that this tag match is better. How about you? Let's turn it around to you, Mike. You posed it. Now you answer it.
I would put this match behind that, ahead of the ladder match. I would also probably put Brett and Owen above that ladder match as well. The ladder match is great. I mean, it's, definitely tippy top matches of the year. But for me, the way they tell the story in each match and the way that the match ties into the story of the feud is what makes it perfect. Like, Sean and Razor have who's the rightful Intercontinental champion. It's a storyline, but it's not necessarily like something that keeps progressing and progressing and progressing. And that's what those two had. Like the Brett and Owen, the way that the match happens, the way that the story starts at fucking, Survivor Series, is perfect. It's perfect from start to finish. Like,
the Brett Owen story is fantastic.
It's just this cohesive storyline, and the match culminates into that storyline so well. Like, again, I'm not like saying it's behind those two matches. Those two matches is not a dig on the ladder match at all. But that's just what puts it slightly behind, is that the matches themselves, they go so great into this like greatly told story.
Correct.
That it's incredible. And that's what this is. This is like, it's a ladder match and it's big spots. But like, these motherfuckers are trying to kill each other with pile drivers. Like, there's this heat to the feud that this had, and that Brett Owen had, where Brett Owen didn't have that blood thing, but it had this perfectly woven who's the better wrestler. And the way that Owen wins that's always been like one of the perfect finishes to a match to me, because he's trying to prove he's the better wrestler. He won with a outsmarting wrestling move. Like, I love the way that those two like feuds and matches go together to make it this incredible story, where I would put the ladder match behind.
There you go. That's a great way to describe it, and I can't disagree with that analysis at all.
Yeah,
all right, go ahead.
It was one more thing. Yeah, I mean, there's way more heat involved in Brett and Owen, but I mean, as a spectacle, Sean and Razor set a whole new precedent that we.
Well, yes, and the influence that ladder match had on later generations, it cannot be understated for sure.
Yeah,
no.
All right, main event time of the evening: steel cage match. Talk about.
By the way, real quick, it is funny that everybody talks about 94, and it's just something that dawned on me now, which is why I stopped you. But it is an interesting kind of side point. Everybody is kind of down on 94, like as wrestling as a whole. But we just talked about 3 incredible fucking matches,
and that didn't even include what's going on in All Japan.
And didn't include, which is on fucking fire, like at its real peak at this point. Like. And we talked about Spring, we're watching this because Spring Stampede might literally be the best WCW pay-per-view of all time.
Of all time, right?
Like, maybe we need to revisit how we think about 94 a little bit, because there's some really good stuff going on in different.
There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit, but there's a lot of
some all-time fucking good shit though too. Yeah. And I would agree. Roy Lucier Wrestling Territories. That's a YouTube channel. He has all of the AAA TV.
That's where I'm watching the CML stuff. Yep.
Yeah, watch that shit because that shit is really good. Just watching that story being told over time with the rise and because it ends with Art dies. It's the rise and fall of Los Gringos Locos. It's just like such a beautiful fucking story.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that. Brian, thoughts?
Yeah, especially in 1994. Like for me personally, this is like as what I would become as a wrestler is a very formative, even my young mind realized. Like I said before that, like 91 SummerSlam, Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect was like that first like light bulb, I want to be a pro wrestler thing. But that's I was like 10, 11 years old just getting into it. By the time I'm like 13, 14, and I'm like I'm watching the Bret Owens stuff all the time, and Austin, Rude, Dustin Rhodes, even Johnny B. Bad or whoever in that US TV title scene from the time, just tearing the houses down. Like that was definitely this like formative years of like what I envisioned myself if I were to be a pro wrestler. This is what I would like, my style. So these are it's an interesting year, 94. Underrated because a lot of stuff, but
yeah. To that point, Brian. 1994. Now that you bring it up, Mike, and I'm thinking of it here. 94 is a highly influential year. If you think about the stuff that's going on in All Japan, the ladder match that we just talked about, the stuff that's going on with Los Gringos Locos, all that stuff had such a great influence on the generation of wrestlers that are our age.
Throw into on influence. Don't forget FMW and Sabu at this time were fucking popping too.
True that too.
That adds to it. Because our age. 90 to 96 for All Japan. I mean, that's the most influential period of wrestling ever. I mean, it still is. It has been the style of wrestling since then, and it has not changed since. And it's been all over every company, like WWE and AEW. That's all just really extensions of the All Japan style, the big moves. The difference is All Japan used to do them in the last two matches, and now they do them up and down the whole fucking show.
I also want to point out too, it's a connection with All Japan too, as far as influence on the style. You have to say probably 2005 to 2008 pro wrestling, Noah with Kenta and Marufuji in their junior division too at the time.
True that. That's a good point too. That's also
they all come from All Japan though, in a way, it's
it was. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean, and we worked with them at that time, So I mean, I got to know some of the production people there and stuff. That. So I kind of knew
guys were that first gaijin to go to know at that time, weren't they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and they were. I mean, that was kind of their whole thing was just they wanted to do All Japan. I mean, they ran with the one thing to their credit is that they did, give the the junior heavyweights more of a spotlight. But I mean, the only reason they really ran with those guys is because, I mean, it was the only guys that were even really in contention because, I mean, the older guys just broke down.
Yeah.
And they tried with Rikio and Morishima, and it just wasn't there either. But yeah, they were doing basically that. I mean, shit, those guys invented that All Japan style. I mean, all the guys up top. I mean, Kabashi's run in that time. Holy shit. I mean, his run as champion is incredible. Incredible shit.
Mm-hmm. All right, main event time. Steel cage match. Perro Aguayo taking on Konnan in a huge grudge match. Konnan and Perro Aguayo, of course, former tag team partners. Yeah. They break up when Konnan turns on Perro Aguayo to join Los Gringos Locos. He's also the IWC champion at this time, although the belt is not on the line. But this is the culmination of their feud. And a couple of things for me. Perro Aguayo has a top 10 blade job in this match. It is legend. I mean, the amount of blood that Perro Aguayo loses in this match is impressive. He bleeds everywhere. That's number one. Number two is that they really made Konnan out to be a gigantic star on a Hulk Hogan type level, and I want to just make sure I'm not overblowing that, or was he that big of a star?
Yes and no. Like, yes, in the context of he's on more mainstream shit, but that's because Mexican wrestlers are just on a more mainstream level in that company or in that country. So I mean, like, he's on more shit than Hogan, but like, is he, the biggest star the industry's ever seen like Hulk Hogan? And in this country, no, but he's on a high plateau because Mexican wrestling is, and Mexican wrestlers are just on a higher plateau in general too. But yeah, he's a mega star though, no question.
Yeah, I mean, this time probably because there's like even now there's like 3 major sports in Mexico, and it's soccer, baseball, wrestling, and probably at this time you could have took wrestling and put it on top of baseball and soccer. So like that's definitely involved in there too, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, Mike Tenay's telling stories about how people are stopping eating and doing their work when Konnan appears on television on a soap opera. Like they were really making him. I mean, obviously they're trying to sell an American crowd.
No, but he's a major mainstream star.
Yeah, for sure.
And on the other side, Perro Aguayo, I mean, they list his accolades, and as I was watching the match, I messaged Mike, and I was like, man, based on what they're telling me about Perro Aguayo, and what Mike had also told me about his influence as a trainer, not only in Mexico but also in Japan.
No, that was Negro Costas we were talking about for that.
Was I mixing the two up there? Then that's my bad.
The trainer part? Yeah.
Trainer part. Okay,
Negro Costas is one of the best trainers of all time. We were definitely talking about him.
Perro Aguayo was also a star in Japan as well. He was a crossover star in that sense, where he did cross over big time there as well. Where Perro Aguayo ranks on the legendary pantheon of Mexican wrestlers, I don't know, but they made it
he's a big star,
like he's he's pushing the Mount Rushmore of Mexican stars.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say that's also kind of what I was kind of bringing to the my point earlier. I was making. You mentioned you, Ben. It's kind of funny. Konnan, being the champ, babyface champ, makes the big heel turn when he's got a little bit of booking power, getting with the hottest act of the company. Kind of does sound like Hulk Hogan in the NWO, especially the feud from Santo and Eddie with the Art Bar to Perro Aguayo and Konnan being a team and breaking this up. That's why these last 2 matches are just amazing blow-off matches, so like it's interesting how like we would see this later on. Because I mean, like, how isn't Hogan leg dropping Savage like an equivalent to what Konnan would have done to Perro Aguayo at the time as a 2 top babyface draws, so
right.
There's join the foreign group coming in.
Yeah, no, there is some parallels there for sure.
It's also different. It would also be different than Konnan actually saw the value in doing it, and Hogan had to be fucking berated into turning heel after trying for about a fucking year. Like, can you ever think about this? This is how insecure the man was. Like, this doesn't get talked about enough. They actually did a test run of a heel turn on television for like a few weeks. Like, who has ever done that with a babyface before? Like, that's such a level of like, let's just stick our toe in the water that like has historically never happened before. It's crazy.
You're talking about, of course, where he dressed in all black.
Yeah.
Leading up to the match where he was
wrestling Sting. He's wrestling Sting.
Yes, no, because
Oh yeah. He wrestles Sting and Marietta.
Doesn't he cut the promo where he takes the black off? I distinctly remember Sting and Macho Man are standing there with him when he takes the black off and he throws it in the barrel and
that's when he turns back babyface. That's when they end the test run. But they test ran that like on TV to a level to where it's like, are they like, what are they doing here? Like, he's like both at the same time. But yeah, that was crazy. That's how insecure that they were with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
like at least and that's one thing where just as people they're different. Where Konnan, was very not traditional, and Hogan was still, that's the thing about Hogan that people kind of don't. They talked to Dusty once. Dusty did an interview about War Games, and they were like, "Well, what was Hogan like wanting to do War Games?" And he was like, he loved it. Because Hogan was from that traditional pro wrestling background, like
the territory days,
deeply rooted in that shit. Yeah, exactly. So but Konnan had that, fuck, man, if I, go do this, imagine all the heat I'm going to get and all the money I'm going to make and all the money we're going to draw. He had that foresight. They really in WCW should have tried to pick his brain more as somebody, he would have been that younger influence that they needed.
Yeah, a guy like Konnan too. You can almost draw some parallels with him and Paul Heyman at this time, because even we've talked about how Mexico had some innovative, violent matches, and he's kind of nipping off the tip of FMW with these, this blade job and this cage match is a blow off, So and he, obviously K-Dog has a lot of influence in hip hop, and obviously would go ECW and blah blah blah, where Heyman's kind of doing that same sort of thing. So there are some parallels there. K-Dog's been that guy even this day. He does have his thumb on the pulse of what's going on in the world,
for sure. And one thing's for sure, judging Konnan only by his WCW run is it doesn't make sense. It's like judging somebody on the worst part of their career. Easily.
To a degree. I like his work physically, he's fucked. I mean, there's nothing you can really do there.
Broke down, yeah.
But I will say this though too. He's a kind of underrated. You and I have had this conversation. He's kind of an underrated part of the Wolfpack.
I loved him. Yes, yeah.
Because Kevin soccer dad Kevin Nash by himself up there trying to be cool. Like I've said before, Kevin Nash in wrestling circles, way ahead of the curve and very cool. Kevin Nash in the real world at this time, not so much. Pro wrestlers are 10 years behind. Kevin Nash was 5 years behind. So he's way ahead of them, but still behind.
Well, no, it definitely gave him some street credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
All that's cool, and he could pull off the backwards bandana, but Nash with dyed hair, little, and they're trying to steal Tupac, but you have Konnan come out there, sunglasses and the fucking hat. He's got the one button with the white tank top underneath, doing West Coast shit, the West Coast rap shit. He was able to translate the coolness of that at that time to a larger group of the NWO.
I like how when we're talking about how cool Konnan is, Ben tries to find the most uncool thing that he did on the fucking in that run, his music. Oh, no. We could not play Mike Tenay cutting fucking nasty phones on Stacy Kubler, but we could play Konnan's fucking music. The internet lost tonight.
Fuck you, internet.
That's a loss for the fucking internet. Oh my god.
He had another video too, didn't he? Yeah.
You know what? I could download that video too. We will have that video next week. I will download the Mike Tenay video.
All right, please do.
Yeah, I will definitely probably look that up. That sounds too good to pass up.
You got to go. I'll send you the link so you can see. Oh my God, Mike Tenay.
Oh, please do. Yeah, please do.
Heel, sexist heel Mike Tenay. Oh my goodness, he is fucking. He's so over the top, but his look. Oh my God.
One last thing. The only critique
the man. Hold on, let me give you a quick sample because the man once said to Madeja when he was talking about what she was thinking about when she got in the ring, and he's like, "Yeah, I've heard it before. I am woman, hear me roar." What the fuck? Oh my God!
Man, you guys fucking they missed out on merchandise sales and the catchphrase era there, man. Shit.
Oh my God.
The only critique that I could have for this match is the rule that they put in place that the only way to win this match was to escape the cage. I thought that was anticlimactic a bit.
A little bit.
But that's just picking nits on what was a really fun blow off match with a ton of blood.
Perro's not physically. He's old at this point.
He's 49.
Yeah, but it's like watching Hogan in his return runs, where listen, if you watch The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18 with the sound off, I mean, it's a shit. I mean, they played to the crowd, they got him into it, but listen, Hulk Hogan can't even get up for fucking rock bottoms, okay? Some of that shit looks real bad. But because, but as far as playing to the crowd, I mean, they're masters. And that's what's going on here. I mean,
correct.
They're not playing
it was
to
a
the
way
crowd
for Perro
as much as they have
to be able to win, because it wouldn't have been realistic for Perro to win by pinning Konnan.
No, Konnan doesn't need to lose here. Who's gonna who are you gonna make money with moving forward? That.
Yeah, but you needed Perro to win. You needed the pay-per-view to end with Perro Aguayo standing tall. That probably needed to happen.
This is probably his last real run anyways. Isn't it? Like you said, he's getting up there. I mean, Lucha guys can go for 75 years, it seems like. So the style, they don't take the hard bumps like American, flatbacks like a lot of American style does and whatnot, or Japanese style. But he's pretty much on his last legs here, I would imagine, right?
I'm glad you brought that up, because every luchador that Larry Zbyszko said would be in a wheelchair by the time he was 40 wrestled 30 years longer than Larry Zbyszko. Every single one of them to a fucking man. Some of them until the day they died. So they kind of got the last laugh on Larry on that one. But
oh no, that's a thing too. This one they had a 4-sided ring and it looked a little stiff, but it looked all right. Those 6-sided rings are cemented into Arena Mexico or whatever, Guadalajara.
The TNA ones were like that too.
I remember Finn Balor when he had a story, but when he was going on his Young Lion excursion with CMML, and he trained in the Japanese dojo, so he was just doing the top rope flat back drop kick, like Dynamite Kid, Owen Hart, etc. Brian Danielson now, and he hit the fucking mat with a flat back, and it was complete concrete. So that's why you noticed that all the luchadors are doing face bump on their drop kicks, or they're doing judo rolls on the side, or they're doing somersaults through things. They're not hitting this goddamn fucking, taking the hits on those bump cards with some really hard bumps in those rings. So
that's what they used to say about the TNA ring too, the 6-sided one. That's so weird that I don't understand the
ropes are tighter in them. One 6-sided ring, the ropes are way. I don't know the shape. I guess I don't know why. Man, it's either the ropes are 90 degrees or more obtuse. Pulled out, maybe. I couldn't tell you. I just know the ropes were a lot tighter. And bump was fine in the middle. I mean,
it's got to be something structurally. That's why when all those TNA fans were booing that they were going to 4-sides, I'm like, you guys are assholes. Everyone talks about how shitty this ring is. Let these guys work in a fucking normal ring. That's all everyone was talking. The wrestlers were so happy, and the fans are booing. It's man, cut these guys some slack.
Yeah, well, you can see, it definitely looks stiff in that TNA ring too. I mean, on the upside, for the cruiser or the X Division guys, they had a better springboard for the springboards and whatnot. But even then, just ouch, you can springboard, jump higher, land on a fucking really hard ring. So it's is the payoff worth it? So
to put a button on this whole thing, Perro Aguayo had we're doing a little bit of reading, and he was described by some American pundits as a cross between Terry Funk and Bruno Sammartino. As kind of a
worker
comparison, as
a
comparison for his willingness to draw and overpower opponents, is what they're basically his style of wrestling would be compared to a cross between Terry.
That's an interesting comparison. I wouldn't necessarily disagree. It's interesting.
Yeah. So
there we go, boys.
Too, so yeah,
American
an hour and 45 minutes of us talking about Lucha Libre from 1994. I enjoyed every single minute, fellas.
Me too. Everybody check some of this stuff out. Like you got seriously, it's really good quality. The Roy Lucier stuff. I mean the Triple
direct off of Galavision. Recorded directly off of Galavision, and you even get to see some of the commercials, which are cool too.
Yeah, Spanish is no harder, if not probably easier for you to understand than Japanese. So if you can watch New Japan and all that other stuff, just check some of this stuff out.
You can even just reading Triple A's biggest shows, Anniversario. Can't figure out that means anniversary. You know what I mean? Can't figure out that Rudo means the rude guys, which would be the bad guys. I mean, December is December. It's not that different. Just prepositions and stuff's a little different, but
yeah, exactly.
Sentence structure.
Well, once again, Brian, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's always a pleasure having you on to chat wrestling with us, man. We really do appreciate you coming in, especially on short notice. We didn't really have anybody lined up, and then you made a comment like, "Hey, no third," and I was like, "Well, I bet he."
Well, we talked about it, and actually, they kind of deep dive it right away afterwards. It's like, oh,
I didn't even see that. I didn't even see that comment either.
Yeah, no, that's all good. Apologies. Real quick,
next emoji going.
No worries. Next week, we also have a returning guest. Our buddy Derek Bayer will be joining us as we deep dive into AWA's Bash by the Bay. In that featuring the one match that I am really looking forward to is Stan Hansen versus Jerry Blackwell. I can't wait to see that because you guys have really pumped up Jerry Blackwell to me. So
Nick Bockwinkel and John Nord, that looks fucking awesome.
So
I don't remember. I know I've seen that show. I don't remember that match for some reason, so I'm interested to see it. Derek Bayer, who correctly identified a wrestler from Dick the Bruiser's promotion today when somebody got him confused with Chris Colt. That's the level of deep cut that Derek Bayer can provide.
Yeah, dude, he is. You and Derek are the two wrestling encyclopedias that I know. But Derek is on a whole nother level than almost anybody I know. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is.
So he'll be back next week, right about this time, talking AWA. Until then, I'm Ben Jordan from Michael V. See you next week.